Good morning, Scotland. We're starting off your morning with a new crime story about the treacherous Macbeth. This is a long story, so get some popcorn, put your headphones in, and have a good time. I host this podcast, Dina Ofessa, along with my partner,
Hadassah Negriti. We want to let you all know that this is a very tragic story that includes a lot of bloodshed and other triggering content. So if that is a bother to you, feel free to click out of this video at any time.
All of our information will be cited from the biography written by William Shakespeare titled The Tragedy of Macbeth. In fact, I just got my copy of Macbeth signed by Shakespeare the other day.
I bet that was one of the best things that happened to you. All right, so jumping right into it, Scotland and the rebel army are currently at war, and this war was getting nowhere. These two swimmers were putting all their energy, blood, sweat, and tear into these battles.
I remember those days just like it was yesterday.
So the two sides are at war, and they're two prominent fighters right off the bat, Macbeth and Banquo.
Yes, and keep in mind that Duncan was the ruler of the time, and he was known for being a noble leader, but also for having a little too much trust in people, which will play a big part later on.
And although Macbeth and Banquo both stood out in the war, one stood out a little more than the other. The current Thane of Glamis was a warrior, a brave, valiant fighter. He even got noticed by King Duncan himself.
And here's the creepiest part. After a battle, Macbeth and Banquo claimed that they ran into three weird sisters who claimed they're a form of supernatural witches. I know it sounds crazy, but just listen to this. Now, it is claimed by different sources that the witches gave Macbeth two different prophecies or claims about his future that are meant to come true. The first being that he will become Thane of Cawdor, which is a position currently held by another Kingsman. And the second is that he will become king, a position that is currently held by King Duncan.
Now, we don't run into the supernatural every day, or at all you'd assume that Macbeth and Banquo would stray away and leave this creepy situation. Like, ever heard of stranger danger? Banquo was the more intelligent one, you could say, because he chose to be less naive and instead was like, hey, maybe we shouldn't trust some creepy sisters claiming they will tell us our future. But Macbeth automatically had full trust in these prophecies.
And although we would hope that Banquo had the brains out of these two and continued to not believe the witches, he instead asks them to give him a prophecy about his future. The weird sisters say something along the lines of, "You'll be lesser than Macbeth, but greater. And although you won't be king, your children will be king."
That just gave me chills.
Yeah, I mean, it's just crazy. Hadassah, I'll ask you this. If you ran into three weird people who claimed they were witches and then gave you some suspicious prophecies about your future, would you be as quick as Macbeth to believe them?
Hell no. That's what makes me so angry, because if only Macbeth was so flipping naive, none of this would have happened.
And after all of this happened, the witches vanished, and you'll never believe what happens next. Two lords known as Ross and Angus, who were sent by the king, gave Macbeth a crazy message along the lines of, "The king has granted you to become Thane of Cawdor." Yeah, you're probably wondering, wait, didn't you say there was already a Thane of Cawdor? Yes, and this is a crazy coincidence, but the previous Thane was executed because he committed treason. And this all happened right before the witches even told Macbeth these prophecies.
Now, Macbeth is known as a very ambitious person, but he was still a very noble kingsman, and you wouldn't expect him to follow in the footsteps of the previous Thane of Cawdor. And let me remind you that although Banquo and Macbeth were close friends, they were kind of opposites of each other, and you'll see it more throughout the story.
Yeah, and so the king meets with Macbeth and Banquo directly to congratulate them, etc. And the king also slips in something. He says that his eldest son Malcolm is his heir to the throne. And after he says this, it's known that Macbeth's ambition was slowly starting to take over him. He tries to hide his ambition by acting grateful and saying he will send a message to his wife, Lady Macbeth. But before he sends the message, he says something that just solidifies the belief of Macbeth's ambition taking over him. And the only reason we know this is because there were actually cameras in that room where Macbeth and the king were in. But obviously Macbeth didn't know about them.
He says, "The Prince of Cumberland, that is a step on which I must fall down, else or leap. For in my way it lies. Stars, hide your fires. Let not light see my black and deep desires. Now that is just insane because nobody else heard him at all. And reviewing this story again just reminds me of how stupid he was. Like, this man is a king's castle after he gained his trust and earned a higher position, yet he is still searching for more power, claiming that deep down he wants the king and his heir.
But he just plays it off and goes on to send a letter to his wife, Lady Macbeth. In this message, he talks about his new position, but most importantly, the strange interaction with the witches. Now let's keep in mind, even though in today's society, gender roles are very flexible in a way that there's no longer really a strict societal standard for how men should act or how women should act. And although there are still some societal standards that people won't let go of, it is nowhere near as crazy and intense as it was in the time period of this story. Women were meant to be gentle and quiet, while men were meant to be dominant and strong. And so after she reads his letter, we really get a sense of what she's like as a person. She is just as, if not more, ambitious than Macbeth. And after hearing these prophecies, it just sparks that ambition even more.
After reading the letter, she claims a bunch of things, like art not without ambition, but without the illness to attend it. She's basically saying it's not that Macbeth doesn't have ambition, but he doesn't have the illness to complete it. He wants the prophecies to be true, but won't do what he needs to do to achieve them.
In other words, she's calling him a coward.
Now we're really starting to see how similar Macbeth and his wife are. Not only are they both ambitious, but they seek the same ambitions.
But the main difference between the two right off the bat is that Macbeth wants to hide his desires and his ambitions because he knows it's wrong. But Lady Macbeth is the one who sparks the evil in him. She is just as power hungry, but she knows with the current societal standards, she cannot achieve her ambition of becoming queen, which is why she has Macbeth achieve his ambition of becoming king for her. And when Macbeth arrives home, Lady Macbeth reveals this insane plan that she has of killing the king. Now, this would probably be insane to pull off, but what is helpful is that Duncan is coming over to Macbeth's castle, Dunsinane, for the night. And the king also has insane trust in his new Thane of Cawdor, saying things like, "More is due than I can pay," and "my worthy Cawdor."
Lady Macbeth's plan is that while Duncan is in his chamber sleeping, she will send Macbeth to stab him to death with a dagger. Now, at this point, there's no backup plan if it goes wrong or if they get caught, so it's looking a little iffy.
And Macbeth isn't so quick to agree with this plan either. As much as he does want to become king, he hears the plan and he says, "We will speak further." So we can see that he's not fully against this plan, but he's probably going to need some more details.
I also want to mention that while Lady Macbeth is giving her plan, this knight's great business into my dispatch. We see this that her plan is hers. She is the one in control, and it gets you questioning. If she feels so strongly about this plan and is so power hungry, why doesn't she just kill Duncan herself?
And so after all that, Macbeth eventually does agree with the plan. And so that night, Duncan, his two sons Malcolm and Donalbain, along with Banquo, his son Fleance, as well as the lords Macduff, Lennox, and Ross, go to Macbeth's castle to spend the night as a way to say congratulations for his new title.
And I really don't want to jump over the fact that Macbeth does eventually agree, because he does go through a lot of back and forth with himself as well with Lady Macbeth.
Yes, and Lady Macbeth is such an interesting person because she goes against the gender norms of the time period for women being gentle and kind, soft-spoken and innocent. But because of this mastermind plan that she has, she is the one who is in control. And Macbeth is kind of just the follower, agreeing to these plans without rationalizing what it'll lead to.
And so is the night of the big plan. Everyone is in their rooms sleeping, except for Lady Macbeth and Macbeth. Everything is planned. They have the daggers ready, but then something happens. Right before Macbeth goes into Duncan's room, he has a hallucination. He sees a floating dagger pointed in the way of Duncan's chamber.
Now this is just so creepy because the story has so many supernatural elements, and it's not known if the dagger is truly a hallucination or possibly something the witches are showing Macbeth, which brings up the question of fate versus free will. Now there are many people who are going to say what Macbeth had coming for him is a result of fate. and in no way could he have controlled it. But I'm a strong believer that everything that happened could have been controlled. If Macbeth truly had belief in fates and the witch's prophecies, then he wouldn't have agreed to the plan of killing Duncan and the prophecy of becoming king. And if the prophecy of becoming king was real, then he would have just let fate take its course and become king naturally.
I don't know, because Macbeth is just such a complex person to understand. Because as we saw towards the beginning, he was a soldier for his country. He was also a loyal kingsman, and doing something as crazy as killing the king is not what anyone around him would expect from him.
But yeah, going back to Macbeth and his floating dagger, he's confused and he's thinking, is this a sick game his mind is pulling on him? I mean, the dagger is covered in blood and is pretty much a sign of his guilt, even though he hasn't even committed the murder yet. This also foreshadows that his crime will haunt him forever. Oh,
It's okay, continue.
And then this dagger disappears, and he says, while I threat, he lives. And when you think about it, it goes back to what Lady Macbeth says, when she says, art not without ambition, but without the illness to attend it. We see Lady Macbeth's influence on Macbeth's actions because earlier the same day, Macbeth was a noble kingsman, and then a couple hours later, he's talking to his wife, and he's already committed to this plan. And whenever Macbeth is questioning or seems unsure, Lady Macbeth is right there to test his masculinity, saying things like, he's not manly enough, and when you durst do it, then you are a man.
It almost makes me feel bad for him in a way you think about it. None of this was his original plan. The witches and Lady Macbeth were highly influential on his actions.
I disagree. Although the witches gave him these prophecies and might have made him believe that these things will come true, at the end of the day, Macbeth is a grown man and shouldn't be so quickly influenced by three random people. And I also want to mention that all of his actions are a result of free will, not fate. These witches are preying on Macbeth's downfall because if Macbeth never agreed to the plan to kill Duncan, the prophecy of him becoming king would have never come true. He is the one who decided to control fates, and so his consequences are deserved.
That is a good point, but like I said before, Macbeth is very complex and his actions aren't a perfect representation of his emotions and his thoughts behind what he's actually doing. Like, we all saw how guilty he feels about this plan, as he's literally hallucinating the weapon he will use to kill Duncan. But anyways, moving on. Macbeth does eventually kill Duncan in his sleep. Lady Macbeth and Macbeth are the only people in the house awake at the moment, and so Macbeth comes down to where Lady Macbeth is after killing Duncan in order to keep their perfect image. Lady Macbeth blames the deed on the servants by drugging them and putting blood of the King Duncan all over their hands.
And Macbeth's actions are already starting to have a toll on his mental health. He comes down saying, "This is a sorry sight."
This is what I'm saying. Look at his reaction to what he's doing. He feels guilty. Lady Macbeth also replies saying, "A foolish thought to say a sorry sight." She's basically telling him to man up and not say nonsense like this. She also says that after these deeds are committed, they shouldn't be thought of. It will make us mad.
And you're probably wondering, if Lady Macbeth is so mad over Macbeth showing guilt and emotion, why didn't she just kill Duncan herself? But she does say that if only Duncan didn't resemble her father so much, she would have done the deed herself. And she mentioned that thinking of these deeds will make us mad, but one of them is already going mad. Macbeth claims that the servants whom they're blaming for the murder of Duncan are haunting him, claiming that they've cried things like murder and sleep no more. Macbeth does murder sleep. This statement will come back to haunt him because after this deed, Macbeth has trouble falling asleep, almost as if he's murdered the nature and peacefulness of sleep.
Okay, so it's the next morning. Macbeth and Lady Macbeth are trying to act innocent as possible, and it's just welcoming house guests until Macduff goes to talk with Macbeth. That's you.
Macduff is a perfect character foil for Macbeth. He's everything that Macbeth was and probably wishes he could be. Duncan is like, blah, blah, Macduff is like, blah, blah, I'm supposed to wake up the king. And obviously if Macbeth is like, no, don't go in there, it'll look super suspicious. So he lets him go to his room, and he comes out screaming horror, horror. Macbeth and Lennox, who's one of the lords, they're like, what is going on? And Macduff is like, murder and treason. Someone stole the life of this building. And then he rings the alarm bell to call Duncan's sons, Malcolm and Donalbain, to come down.
Lady Macbeth then enters, and she puts on this insane act. She goes to the point of fainting, showing really how manipulative she can be, which is insane. Like, why is she so committed to this act?
Everyone is in distress at this point. Everyone except, obviously, the king is awake. And then Macbeth starts going insane, trying to prove to everyone that he didn't kill Duncan, before anyone even assumed it of him. Lennox mentions how the servants seem insanely guilty, as they're the ones who had blood all over themselves and their daggers. Macbeth then goes on to make everything worse by saying his love for Duncan filled him with raged grief, which led him to kill the servants.
And as someone reviewing the story, it's pretty obvious that he killed them, so that when they do wake up, they can't testify against the claim that everyone believes they killed Duncan. And so now Malcolm and Donalbain are downstairs with everyone, and you think they'd have a normal human reaction to their father just dying, but instead there is no sense of grief in their emotions. Instead, they believe that the murder of Duncan is still out there, and the only way to survive is to separate themselves and move to different countries.
And to be fair, they do have a point. I mean, the murderer of Duncan is obviously still out there, and the best thing they can do to not be an easy target is to separate. But when you think about it from everyone else's POV, this is insanely suspicious behavior. To them, if you didn't kill your father to try and get the throne, why are you suddenly so scared and escaping from the public eye? And so Malcolm goes to England and Donalbain goes to Ireland.
A little bit later, Ross and Macduff meet up to try and talk this murder out. Macduff slightly mentions that at the moment, he's still convinced that the servants are the ones who killed Duncan. And then Ross asks if he'll be going to the coronation of Macbeth. Yes, Macbeth is now the heir and the throne, as both of Duncan's sons have fled the country. But anyways, Macduff says no. He won't be going to the coronation. Now this brings a lot of suspicion in the reason Macduff won't go. Because is he secretly suspicious of Macbeth and just needs more evidence to prove himself?
Wait, I'm gonna cut this out, but can we talk a little louder?
Okay.
Because I feel like it's not gonna sound back. Okay, anyway. And so now Banquo, Macbeth's best friend, comes into his coronation a little suspicious. He thinks back to the witch's prophecies and thinks that Macbeth did something foul to achieve them. But he says that to himself. And so we can see now that more people are starting to get increasingly suspicious of Macbeth.
Macbeth questions where Banquo and his son will be later, and he says they're going on a little horse ride around the city. Macbeth has now become the one insanely suspicious of Banquo, knowing what Macbeth did. And to Macbeth, the only way to fix this problem is by getting rid of it completely. Yup, Macbeth is planning on killing Banquo, his dearest friend, who's done absolutely nothing wrong. Not only will he plan to kill Banquo, but also his little son Fleance. I know, he's so paranoid over this stupid witch prophecy of Banquo's son becoming king that he can't even stand to breathe the same air as him without being paranoid.
Macbeth then goes on to meet with some hitman and plan this big scheme. These men end up killing Banquo brutally, but Fleance manages to escape. And then Macbeth has the audacity to complain about how full his mind is and the state of his mental health, when who's the one that caused it? Him. Even Lady Macbeth, the big manipulator since the beginning, is starting to become scared of the man Macbeth has become. And you can really see a deterioration of her mental state and also a realization of everything they've been doing. So far, there's been at least 4 murders, including the servants, that have been in the hands of the Macbeths.
Macbeth is then told about the murder of Banquo by one of his hitmen and takes place at Macbeth's little banquet celebration. So although he's upset Fleance wasn't killed, he can't really show any emotion because people will become hella suspicious. And here is where we really see where Macbeth's mental state is at. Everyone is enjoying their food at the banquet until Macbeth starts yelling at himself and gets up rushed. Everyone is like, what is going on? And guess what he saw? Banquo's ghost. This man cannot get away with playing Ring Around the Rosie with his emotions.
Exactly. He's going through a cycle of remorse and guilt until 2 seconds later where he's ordering another person's murder. That's why I believe this story is so repetitive. Like, I know he's transitioning from a good soldier to an evil murderer, but like, he's got to choose a side, whether he's all in or all out. There's no in between. This little in between stage is that he's going through right now, is what's causing these hallucinations and mental issues on both Macbeth and his wife. This also makes me think, if Banquo never asked for his prophecy in the beginning, he probably would still be alive. Because when you think about it, the biggest reason Macbeth was intimidated and threatened by Banquo was for the security of his throne.
But anyways, Macbeth has this crazy hallucination of Banquo, even though he is very much dead. People are now getting a little more suspicious of Macbeth, including Macduff, who is currently in England for some secret work. But Macbeth decides to go back to how this cycle of violence and bloodshed began. He goes back to the witches. Now the witches give him 3 more prophecies about his future. One being, beware of the Thane of Fife. The Thane of Fife is Macduff. The second is, no man born of a woman can ever harm Macbeth. And the last one is, Macbeth shall never vanquished be until great brim wood to high dozen hills shall come against him.
Now, 2 of these are obviously very positive and something a person as ambitious as Macbeth and naive as Macbeth would want to hear. But a question I've always wondered is, are these witches actually telling the truth? Because saying that Macbeth won't die until some wood from a forest approaches his house sounds very specific, but it also sounds impossible, which is another factor of these witches. Like, I've argued that Macbeth deserved what was coming to him, but when you have these supernatural creatures who claim they can tell you things about your future, and 2 of them have already come true in the past, whether it's in the hands of fate or free will is a different discussion. But these witches are twisting the truths that, spoiler alert, will actually happen.
I mean, based on the way the story is going, you could have assumed that these prophecies will become true.
Yeah, and I feel like the point I'm trying to make is that these witches are evil, obviously, and play a big part in influencing Macbeth to do what he does. But you're telling probably one of the most ambitious person ever, that all this good stuff is going to happen, and you're going to expect him to just wait around. Obviously, he's going to go and search for these good things that are meant to happen to him. But in Macbeth's case, he chooses the violent path.
I completely agree. You could argue that the witches are even more manipulating than Lady Macbeth, but there's no way that the way everything went is completely in the hands on Macbeth. Because first of all, these are witches who knows what type of magic or voodoo they're doing, while no one's watching. But the second of all, like you said, there are very specific prophecies, and they're most likely derived from some truth, but very twisted truth. Like, if anyone hears no man born a woman will ever harm you, it sounds perfect, and that's exactly how Macbeth takes it as well. But there is so much behind these words that the witches aren't mentioning, and they also mention to beware of Macduff. But why would he have to be careful of someone who can't hurt him? Like, make it make sense. But you'll just have to keep listening to see how it affects Macbeth.
But anyways, Macbeth is obviously very happy with these new prophecies, and now he's living life at the top of the world with the confidence that no man can hurt him. I think we could already predict this ending, but we're gonna keep going. Going back to Macduff, as I mentioned before, he is in England for some top secret work. What's that top secret work, you may ask? Well, he goes to meet with Duncan's oldest son, Malcolm, who, if we remember, fled to England after finding out that his father died and had the whole nation of Scotland believe that he killed his father. Yeah, that Malcolm. Anyways, Macduff finds Malcolm to discuss a plan he has for Malcolm to take the throne away from Macbeth. And let's just talk about how at this exact moment back in Scotland, Macbeth discovers that Macduff, another person he is paranoid of, is suspicious of him. So what does he do, you may ask? He sends people to slaughter his entire family. Yep, pretty expected from this tyrant at this point. Poor Macduff, honestly. Like, he has done nothing wrong but try and bring peace back to his nation. And how does Macbeth return the favor? Murder his bloodline.
We're back in England with Macduff and Malcolm, and although Malcolm does want the throne that was meant for him back, he plays around with Macduff's trust a little bit to know you really make sure that this is someone that he can trust with this plan. But he eventually does trust him, and then someone informs poor Macduff that his entire family has been murdered. He reacts like a normal person would and is very, very sad. Except this time, it is real. Cough, cough, Macbeth. Now Macbeth has done a lot of bad things that Macduff doesn't like, but I can't even imagine how much fuel he was filled with to continue this plan and take over Macbeth after hearing the news.
But if you really want to know how Macduff was truly feeling, then stay tuned till the end when we will be having a special interview with him to get all the insights on his thoughts.
Macduff's plan right now is to battle Macbeth at his own castle with sneak attack.
But before they could even get to the battle, there's news on the Queen, Lady Macbeth. She has been having some very guilty dreams herself. Going back to the idea of Macbeth murdering the nature of sleep, we see affecting another person now. Lady Macbeth has been sleepwalking, and all she's been able to talk about is how she cannot get rid of the blood from her hands. And the doctors around her are trying to help her, but Lady Macbeth is just spilling and spilling everything that she's done. She screams, she cries, everything. The Queen is not looking too good, to say the least.
But let's look back at Macbeth. He still has, what was I saying?
Confidence
in the prophecies that he cannot be harmed. But sneak attack has happened, and Macduff's army is becoming more and more dangerous that Macbeth eventually goes in to fight. After putting on all his armor, he is notified that all the sleepwalking and hallucination she's been having eventually killed her.
I'm just surprised it didn't get to him first.
His reaction to his wife's death is very different than Macduff's reaction to his family. Macbeth says something that he may not have meant in the moment, but he says that she should have died hereafter. Now Dina and I are interpreting this as him saying she should have died earlier, but there are different interpretations on his words. He then goes to talk about the nothingness of life and how pointless it is anymore. He was spent this past year or two in much paranoia and guilt that his wife's death was kind of a cherry on top just to go numb. He doesn't cry, he doesn't get mad, he's just numb.
Macbeth is still in his nonchalant era. and confident that he's better than these other lords who are coming to battle him. Because why wouldn't he have the confidence? 3 random ladies literally told him no man born of a woman can harm him. They also told him that he'll be fine until Birnam Wood comes to Dunsinane. But that's impossible. So he doesn't have to worry about that. Then one of the servants comes to inform him that Birnam Wood is in fact coming to Dunsinane. Yep, Malcolm and Macduff's army are using Birnam Wood from the forest nearby to hide how many men they have as they approach the castle. We could literally just end the story right here. Macbeth is done for.
Macbeth hears this and it's obviously like, what? And goes out to fight because you know what? At least he died in the battle as a hero. He comes across many different men in this battle and they all claim they can kill him. And Macbeth is like, ha, we born?
You were.
What does that say?
You were.
Okay. You were born from a woman and then kills him. So his confidence is growing because this prophecy is so far true. No man born a woman can harm Macbeth. That is until he meets with Macduff. Now Macbeth makes it clear that he's not surrendering because he's not a coward, even though he is up against the leader of the battle now. Macbeth is doing a lot of trash talk, like, you're wasting your effort, I can't be harmed. And then guess what Macduff does? He kills him and then walks into his little celebratory retreat carrying Macbeth's head.
You're probably like, how did he kill him if no man born of a woman can harm Macbeth? Well, Macduff was actually born from a C-section. This is what I mean by twisted truths. Macduff is still born from a woman, obviously, but not naturally. So this miscommunication that the witches purposefully do leads to the death of Macbeth. And so we end with Malcolm becoming king and this violent tyrant of Macbeth finally killed. But what I'm wondering is, what if Macbeth saw Malcolm instead of Macduff first? Because I'm assuming Malcolm is most likely born from a natural birth. And if Macbeth killed him, then he would have won and probably continued his reign.
Yeah, I think about that too, which is probably why I think that the witches had the biggest role in this, because there's no way they made up a random things to try and trick Macbeth, because in the end they all happened as a result of fate. Like, Macbeth doesn't go out in his free will and approach the castle with Burnham Wood. You know what I'm saying? But anyways, this is the end of the story, sadly. But before you go, don't forget to tune in and watch our interview with Macduff.
Okay.